Welcome to Stories in Time. My name is Ellouise Schoettler. I have a story for you today. You know, sometimes storytellers don't know exactly what they're going to tell people when they sit down to talk into a camera. I had a plan when I came this morning, and I just decided on the way down here to the station that that wasn't what I wanted to tell you at all. And so I'm sort of on the edge working out a story that I saw in the newspaper yesterday and on Facebook. And it was very emotional for me. Maybe it was for you too. I don't know. I opened up Facebook and there were some newspaper shots of the San Marco Plaza in Venice. And it was flooded. Not just a little bit of rain, not just a little bit of water. They had had a washout. There were 3 to 4 feet flooded onto that plaza. There were men walking through there, probably maintenance men or whatever, and they had on almost hip boots, and there you could see how the struggle of the walk and how they were walking over. It said in the write-up on Facebook, "This is a catastrophe," says the mayor. The catastrophe. It can be such a loss. I sat there and watched it, and I cried. Oh, it brings tears to my eyes now. If you've been to Venice, you understand why one would cry. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And it wasn't that somebody dropped a bucket of water or that it rained for a couple of days. I don't know how long it took, but what I did read, there was the tide went up. It was filled, and it rolled over and filled this. It meant that the doors were closed to the San Marco Church. That's a beautiful church inside. And who could tell what exactly the amount of damage that they would have. I'm lucky. I guess I went to Venice the first time in 1977. And I fell in love with it then. And I was with my friend Marie, who was living in Germany. Jim had gone, we were on a trip, Jim and I, and then when his business was finished in London, then I caught a train and met Marie in Paris, and we made a trip. I had never been to Europe. I was studying art to get a master's degree in little art history, painting, at American University. I had read about all these things, but I had never seen them up close. So we ended up our trip, some parts of it, in Venice. It's a magical place, absolutely magical. But Marie's purse was stolen and she wouldn't stay. I have cried before looking out the window of the train as it moved through the town. 2 years later, Jim and I came back because our son was overseas in a class, and he was near Venice, and we went up while he was sitting through an exam. Jim and I went to Venice. It was cold. It was February and very cold, and we walked and walked and walked. Listen, I want to tell you something. I am frightened by water because I can't swim. I don't brag about that or usually tell people about that, but I am not a swimmer. And so there was some fear, and I had a little discomfort getting on the vaporettos, scooting across the lagoon, going and traveling wherever we tried to go for 4 days. And I wasn't afraid. That was the magic of that. I wasn't afraid. because there was so much more to be distracted by. 4 years later, Jim and I came back, and we stayed for a week in Venice. And we walked and walked and walked again. And we saw what we needed to see. And when we wanted to, we took a train and went to another town that was nearby. And we saw some marvelous things, but I always felt it was like a magnet pulling me back to Venice. I learned a lot by going in and out of Venice, but I learned the most in the years that Jim retired. We were there because I had some artwork in some exhibitions in other places in Italy with a gallery from here. And we were hanging them in places and going back and seeing them and talking to people, all that kind of professional stuff that you have to do. And we had a week in Venice. Jim and I did. And we left there saying, we'll be back. We're not staying away anymore. I'm heartbroken for those people that live there, that will see so many things changed and lost under that water. And who knows how much damage in the buildings there will be. If there's anybody around, that's of an age, you'll remember that, was it in the 60s or the 70s, that Florence was flooded and the artworks there were damaged and people were frightened and they moved them out and they collected a lot of money to repair it. Well, there's the same going to be happening in Venice. There may be a lot of art that you're not as familiar with it in Venice. People said to me before they went on a vacation 2 or 3 years ago and said, what's your favorite place? Where should I go? What's the thing to see? And I said, I can't tell you that. There's not any specific place or thing to see in Venice. Venice is an artwork. You go into a museum, you go into a restaurant, you go into a shop, you see all of those things. But being together as a collage, they make Venice. They make a world. They make you believe in the world that was there so long ago. I just can't think that it wouldn't be there if I got on an airplane and flew in. And you go from the airport, where you get out of your plane, of course, and you go someplace where you can get onto a vaporetto. And it takes you, a large boat bus, takes you all the way across the lagoon. And as you're riding out and taking in the water and the lights, the churches, it's an unforgettable view as you come up to Venice. I'm happy to say that the last time we were there, Jim had just retired from being a physician at St. Elizabeth's Hospital. And he decided that we would really take a decent vacation, a long vacation. Where do you want to go? And I said, well, there's no question about that. I want to go to Venice, don't you? And we had met people 2 or 3 years before who lived there, who had an apartment, a modest apartment, a flight up from the ground, near the water, near the place where they have the Biennale exhibitions, all that artwork there. We were going to be there in that apartment for a month. We had plans. We had talked about, well, we could go to Padua, we could do this thing, we could do that thing. We never left the city. There was no place else we wanted to go. Because you're not going to see a thing if you go to Venice. At least I didn't feel that way about it. You keep discovering a little church, a big church, a museum, a small gallery, people, a new kind of coffee, a piece of food in a small restaurant. Everything. You have to look for it and be there long enough to find it. I hope and pray that it's put back together and that it doesn't take them too long, because they must be heartbroken. Everybody that's been there and everybody that lives there. They'll just be heartbroken to see the damage that's been done by the water. God bless you, Venice.